Today's lesson, we're continuing to learn about area and circumference of circles. Yesterday, if you guys remember, we learned about how to find the area and the circumference of a circle. We had a couple formulas here to help us out. Here's still our formula for area of a circle, pi times radius squared. And we also learned the circumference of a circle is pi times 2 times the radius, or I think even yesterday, we also did pi times the diameter. Because remember, really, if you take the radius times 2, it just is the diameter. So just a little reminder about yesterday, what we learned. And a lot of problems you did yesterday, they gave you either the radius or the diameter, one of those things, and you were able to find the area or find the circumference using these formulas. Well, now today's problems are just working backwards from that. A lot of the problems you're going to see today, and something we should still be able to do with circles, is if they give us the area of the circle or they give us the circumference, we should be able to work backwards and find some of the other things like the radius or like the diameter of that circle. So for example, this first problem here, these first ones say find the diameter. So that's what we're trying to figure out. If we have a circle and we know something else about it, can we find the distance across? Remember, that's the diameter. The radius just at halfway, the diameter is all the way across. And I'll even draw just a little, maybe a picture up in the top right or top left corner here, just as a little reminder. Here's the center of the circle. And so maybe in blue, I'm just going to, a little reminder. Here's my diameter, so D. And then maybe in green or something, some other color, remember, here's my radius. And since I'm making these things and have different colors on here, we'll talk about the circumference. Remember, the circumference is just all the way around the circle. So my black line that I would have that goes all the way around, that's my circumference. And I might as well complete the picture. I'll just kind of lightly shade in my area. Oops, I kind of went over the diameter and the radius there. I don't want to do that. But the space on the inside, that's like my area, right, on the inside of the circle. Okay, so just kind of a reminder there for each of the things that we've been dealing with. So back to that first problem. It says find the diameter. Find the diameter of this circle. It gives me the circumference. So first thing you should do is think, well, I know a formula that deals with circumference, or I have some formulas over here. Again, we talked about yesterday, you could use either one of these, and I do prefer the second one. I think that's a little easier and a little quicker to deal with. Circumference equals pi times diameter. So the first thing you should do in this problem, we're trying to find the diameter, right? But we have the circumference. So let's write down the circumference formula. Circumference equals pi times diameter. Now, they tell us the circumference is 62.8 inches. So what can we do? And maybe some of you, as you're working these problems along with me, you might even have an idea of how to start before I even talk about it. But what I'm thinking to do is, well, if this is the circumference, let's put that in for C, and let's rewrite the formula now with the circumference in there. 62.8 equals pi times the diameter. Good. Now, think about problems that we have solved in the past. We've done things just like this. We're trying to find the diameter, right? Which is D right here. It's a variable. I'm trying to figure this out. In the past, maybe we've seen equations that look, I'm going to write something kind of familiar over to us, like over on the side here. 9 equals 3 times D. And what will we do to solve this equation? Well, we would divide both sides of the equation by 3, because that would get rid of the 3's here. They would cancel. And then I just have D by itself equals whatever my answer is. We're going to do the same kind of thing right here. I know this is pi, but we can still, again, pi just stands for a number, right? So we can divide both sides by pi. And I think in the homework today, it will tell you that in today's assignment, you're going to use our approximation for pi, 3.14. And actually, I'm going to write it just a little bit bigger, and I should use the approximate symbol too. Here's pi, and as we know, it's about 3.14. So when you punch things in your calculator today, when you're dividing by pi or multiplying by pi, you're going to use 3.14 in that place. Okay? Take a look at the right side of the equation. Just like with other numbers, right? Like we did with the 3's. Pi divided by pi, anything divided by itself is like 1. And essentially they're going to kind of cancel, and I'm just going to have D left on this side of the equation, which is the diameter, and that's what I want, right? And on the other side, I'm going to take 62.8 and divide it by 3.14. And in this case, it comes out nice. It ends up being just 20. So it said find the diameter, and that's what we just did. We found the diameter of that circle would be 20. Now, at this point in the video, if you already don't have a calculator with you, you should go get a calculator from the far wall. because you're going to try to punch these numbers in and do these examples and try to figure it out yourself first. I will go through them right now as well. I'm going to go down to number 2 here, but you should pause the video and see if you can do number 2 right now, and then check and see if you get the same answer as me. So go ahead and pause it right now and see if you can figure out number 2. See if you can find the diameter given that circumference. Okay, so hopefully you've tried it yourself. It's similar to the one above, right? It says the circumference of this circle is 138.16 centimeters. So first, let's write down our formula for circumference. Circumference equals pi times diameter. And again, we're trying to find the diameter in this problem. Some problems in the future, we might be trying to find the radius or something else, but this one we're trying to find the diameter. So it'll be what we get for an answer for D right away when we're done with this, plugging things in here. Good, the circumference equals 138. Let's put that in for C. That's where that goes in the formula. 138.16 equals pi times the diameter. Same thing as this above. Now we're trying to solve this for the diameter, for D. In the past, if this helps too, remember we drew our line even on the equal sign, and we tried to do inverse operations each side. That's really what we're doing here. Since this says pi times D, we're going to divide by pi to both sides of the equation. Pi divided by pi, just like other numbers, when they divide, something divided by itself just gives me 1, and so essentially be just 1D, or just D. That's what I want, just D by itself. And when I divide 138 by 0.16 divided by 3.14, like we're using for pi, you get a nice number. You land right on 44. Not every problem today will have a nice number, but there definitely should be some. You should hopefully get some nice answers like 44. Oops, and I should include my unit. This is 44 centimeters, and the one above was 20 inches. See how you're doing so far. And if you're having trouble, definitely pause the video, maybe ask a question to the teacher or to a neighbor. Okay, problem number 3. Now, just a little different. This problem, we're still asking to find the diameter. It's still asking for the same thing in the directions up here. But in this one, it's given us the area of the circle. So scrolling up, or for you just looking up on the page, remember here's the area formula for a circle. It's a little different. This one you definitely have to use the radius. Like that's what the formula is. There's just one version. Area equals pi times the radius squared. And that's going to be very important. It's going to be a little different, like I said, than the last problem. Let's see if we can figure out how to deal with that when we're trying to find our answer. So similar to the other problems though, they give us the area. They give us something we can put in this formula, 28.26. So let's put that in for A. We're going to substitute that in. Equals pi times the radius squared. Again, right now, even if you want to, you can try to pause it and see if you can figure out what you should do next. I bet you might have an idea. The next step is going to be similar to the other problem. I know I'm trying to find the diameter, but remember, in the end, diameter is just 2 radiuses. So if I can figure out what R is, then I can just double that, and that'll give me the diameter, right? So let's see if we can, in this case, this equation, try to figure out what R is instead. That's what we'll try to do. And how do I do that? Just like on the previous problems, I'm going to try to solve this and get R by itself. Let's divide both sides by pi. Pi divided by pi is going to cancel on this side. And on the right, now just keep track, I have R squared. Okay, well, we'll deal with that in a second. Dividing the other side by 3.14, you get 9. Now, take a look at what this says, and I bet some people can figure this out. This says that the radius, when you square it, you get 9. So think about it to yourself. What number is the radius really? What number can I square times it by itself and get 9? And hopefully some of you are thinking this, and if not, that's okay, but you square the number 3, and that will give you 9. So some of you that might be enough to think about it. Otherwise, what's the way that you can tell what times itself gives me a number? Remember, you take the square root. That's the inverse of squaring something. It's like taking the square root. So square root of 9 gives me 3, so the radius is 3. Now, that's still not our answer, though. Just remember, we are trying to find the diameter, right? So the radius is 3. So what's the diameter for this circle? It must be 6. Very good. Take a look at that next problem, number 4, and it's doing the same thing. See if you can do that one. Pause the video right now, and I'll go through it in a second, give you the answer, but see if you can figure out 4 right below it. Very similar idea. All right, problem number 4. Again, this one gives us the area. Remember, we're trying to find the diameter in this particular problem, like all these 4, but gives us the area. So let's start with the area formula. When you're showing work today, you should do the same thing. This one gives us the area of the circle. And that formula is pi times the radius squared. So start by writing that down. That's where we have to begin. Then, again, like we said, it tells us the area. So put that in the formula. 254.34 equals pi times the radius squared. Following the formula along here. Again, now let's solve for this variable over here, r. Let's solve for the radius, see if we can figure out what that is. Maybe that'll lead us to our answer, as we know. So I'm going to divide both sides by pi. As a reminder, sometimes you can use the pi button too on the calculator, but this assignment, I think today, wants you to use 3.14. So when you're plugging numbers in and you're dividing, just divide exactly by 3.14. We're going to use that approximation today. When you do that in this problem, I believe you get 81 that I punched in earlier and found. So ends up being a nice number again. That equals r squared. Now realize again, that's not our answer and it's not our radius, right? That's r times itself gives us 81. So I bet you can think about it. What is the radius of this circle then? If some number times itself, the number I need, is 81, then the radius I want, is just 9. Okay? And since I'm looking for the diameter in the end, the radius is 9. Going, remember, just back to our picture up here. Radius is just halfway across the circle, the green line. So the blue line's all the way across. So yep, it's 18. Oops, and I forgot my units again. Centimeters, right? And same thing with the one above, inches. Very good. My last example is something by doing the 4 problems above. I bet you could also do problem number 5 as well. Take a look at what it wants us to do. It wants us to find the circumference of the circle. Okay, find the circumference. But what it gives us is the area. So, first of all, just like the problems above, okay, I bet you we can figure this out. Since it gives us the area, we need to start with the area formula. So that's the first thing you should do. Write down the area formula. Okay? So area of this circle is 113.04, which equals pi times the radius squared. Okay? Well, continuing to solve this formula, we can find out the radius, right? Because that's the variable that's in this formula right here. So I'm just going to do like I did above. I'll divide by pi. And again, right now, be a good time to even pause this video and see if you can go forward and see if you can figure out what the answer to this one's going to be. How did I find the circumference? I bet you could figure it out, but otherwise I'll go through it here with you too. So if I divide both sides by pi, I get 36 on this side. If I divide by 3.14, I get 36 equals r squared. And again, so that's my radius times itself gives me 36. So what is the radius that I want? It would be 6, in this case, inches, right? Okay, so far so good. I also know if the radius is 6, right, we're good at finding the diameter. That'd be 12. But now I still don't have the final answer. It wants me to find the circumference. So what do I need to do? Well, formula, let's write down. Since I'm trying to find the circumference, now I think I've got enough information. And maybe you figured this out already. Circumference is pi times diameter, isn't it? And now, after doing all that, I have the diameter. So now I can find the circumference of the circle using this formula. Circumference equals 12 times pi. Now, just a reminder, if they wanted you to write the answer in terms of pi, if it asked for that, that would be the answer to the problem. And on Study Island or certain problems, they may ask for that. So 12 pi would be how you would leave it. If they want an exact answer, and they want to find out like to a decimal place to the nearest hundredth or tenth or whatever it asks for, then I do just take 12 times 3.14 or whatever it asks for. If it says to use the pi button, just read the directions carefully. In this case, I'm just going to use 3.14 because that's what we've been using. And I get 37.68. And I think, again, we're doing in terms of inches for this one. So, and notice how they want you to leave your answer. But yeah, using the area formula or using the circumference formula, I can use these formulas to find any of those things that I need for the circle. Very good.